Good evening, darlings, and welcome to episode 21 of Greenwood Talks. And it's so good to be back with you again this week. I know this last week there's been so many troubles with me technologically, and so I just want to say thank you all for being so patient with the fact that I'm so technologically inept and that I keep deleting things. I'm so sorry about that. So let's get straight into tonight's question, which is an anonymous submission. And I want to say before we start that this is a very heavy subject tonight, and I think one that's very difficult. And so my views are just my own, and there are many other views on this, and so don't take mine as the end-all be-all of answers to this, darling. So without further ado, let's just get into the question. Recently, I've been having a lot of existential angst and despair. Every choice I make, all options seem equally laughable and pointless, and I have no idea why I'm doing anything in the first place. I see no purpose in life anyway, but I'm still going through the motions, which makes me feel dishonest. I can't bring myself to take Kierkegaard's, I'm terribly sorry about destroying that word, his leap of faith. I doubt the practicality of revolution, and what's the point in trying to better yourself? All the responses I've seen from philosophers to this despair seem equally absurd. I mean, what am I doing? Do I just have to live with this for the rest of my life? Or is there something I'm missing? So, I do apologize again for absolutely mangling that word. I'm not that big on philosophy, I must admit. So, for me, looking for the answers from a philosopher has never been something I've really gone into. So, you know, I think some philosophers even sort of go down the absurd route just to take a point to its full course and end. And so, I think what you have to do, and I'll admit that I'm no stranger to the existential crisis. Even me, darling, I know. There's a lot of sort of guilt that I have about things that have happened in my past, and sometimes I'm haunted by those who are no longer alive. And I know that that's all sort of a head game that one plays with themselves, but I think part of that also is our need to keep alive those things that are precious to us, for better or for worse. So, getting back to your question here, I don't think that there is no point to bettering yourself. In fact, I'm a very big proponent of trying to better yourself. I know that it can seem pointless because once your life is through, it's through, and you won't be there anymore. But I think there's something important about feeling a type of satisfaction with what you've done in your life, and that can be very difficult depending on what you've gone through, of course. But for me, you know, I've had my share of tragedy, and I've had my share of things that I've done that I deeply regret. And for me, the way I keep going is knowing that I can sort of repent for those things that I was unable to do before. And so bettering myself is one of those ways that I sort of repent for the sins that I've committed, so to speak. I really don't know. These are such difficult questions, and I think anyone who has really sat and thought about the direction of their life, or the meaning thereof, goes through this same thing. And some people are much more sensitive to it than others. You know, there's many people out there that have deep anxieties about the end or what they're doing, and I think even the most accomplished people have moments of this in their life. I really do, darling. You're not alone. And I know that doesn't necessarily make it all better to know that you're not the only one, but take some comfort in the fact that you're not dealing with this all on your own, you know. There are many people going through the same thing. And I think there's nothing wrong with finding your own purpose in life, finding that thing that drives you, the thing that makes you want to continue, because it's a very difficult decision to decide to continue. Life can be very horrible at times, you know, and choosing to continue with that as opposed to just sort of letting yourself disappear, I think is a very courageous one. If you think about it, we make a very short life for ourselves. There's it's just the nature of our existences, and how much impact you have can vary so wildly. You know, not everyone in the world can be a famous politician or a world-renowned musician, but that doesn't mean that we can't make a meaningful sort of mark on the world. And for me, personally, I really want to give back to people. I remember what it was like trying to get through things without anyone there, trying to make my own way. And so for me, seeing other people who are going through the same thing, I feel like I could be that voice that I didn't have, you know, sort of a caring for your own younger self in reverse. I'm not sure if I'm wording that very well, but you know, I've seen young people going through things that I went through, that I did without anyone, that I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know if there was anyone like me. I mean, I assume there was, because, you know, there's 7 billion people out there, but I didn't know any. I didn't have anyone I could talk to about it. And so I don't want anyone to feel the way I felt. You know, I don't want to see anyone suffering the way that I did. And so for me, even if the only mark I make is to help just one person with that, I feel like I've improved the world and thereby sort of made a mark on it. And that's sort of a bizarre thing, I think, for a lot of us to think about, you know. But for me, that's sort of the goal I've made for myself, and the meaning that I've decided to make. And, you know, there's many other things, of course, I want to accomplish in my life. I'm not saying that just help one person, done, you know, checkout time, but I think there is something to bettering yourself. I think there is value in that. And I feel like because, and I'm going to go into some spiritual things here, darling, so take this with a grain of salt. For me personally, I think we're all connected in this universe. We all have been given the gift of life, and we're all made from the same elements as other things in the universe. So I feel like I want to put something positive back, because I was given this very precious gift of life, and I know that, you know, at any moment it could be taken from me, and every day that doesn't happen is sort of a wonderful thing. If you think about the odds of that, they're pretty astronomical, and so I want to make something of it, and that could be selfish, I don't know, darlings, but I want to add something positive to this wonderful world that I live in. And you know, I think protecting life, even very small life, is very important, and I know not a lot of people really sort of take that to heart, and I think it's very hard to follow that path, to make sure that, oh, let me not step on this ant. And I think there's some religions where there are people that go to very vast extremes to make sure that they don't harm any, and I'm not to that point. You know, I haven't reached that point where I can do that. I still falter. I still make mistakes. I still have moments of rage and all that, but um, I am um, looking for a way to put something more positive. Um, I just want to make the world a better place, and that sounds terribly cliche, darlings. I am very well aware of just how awfully cliche that sounds, but I hope you will stick with it. I don't know if this is answering any of these questions for you. I know that it's very hard. There's no clear guideline that says this is what you do with your life, and I think a lot of cultures sort of give you um, a line to follow. Um, but if you don't sort of fit the mold, I feel like you have to carve your own path. And I think if you do that, if you are the type of person who makes their own path, what you get at the end, if you can follow it, is so much more rewarding. Now, I'm not saying, go completely off the deep end with this, but um, there are many wonderful, precious things in this world, and you're one of them, darling. So um, the answers aren't always right in front of us, which is a shame. But the journey to find those answers, although it can be terribly, terribly difficult and full of despair at times, it can also be full of joy and wonder and um, I would say try to experience as much as you can that's out there. It's hard to know where you should head unless you've done a little research. So try to put yourself out there and just try different things. Look up something you never thought of. Read about a culture you've never heard of before, um, or search for a place that you've never thought to travel. Just find out more. I think sometimes that can be enough drive to sort of push you in a direction, and sometimes the thing that you need most is right in front of you but hidden behind the clouds. So don't give up, darling. Just try to head out there and do it, because you have a special and amazing purpose, and it just is a matter of finding it. So cheers, darling.